We have an interesting session for you this morning, a very practical session for you this morning on protecting people and oceans from maritime disasters. Now, I needn't mention to this audience that all sorts of hazardous events have happened in the past, and since that time, well, I should say since the last decades, there has been an enormous effort, both from the international organization side, national government, regulatory side, the European Union, and the private sector, to mitigate these disasters. In fact, at times, to look very strongly and deeply at how to prepare for them and prevent, as well as what to do should nature or man himself, herself, have a lapse. So these are some of the issues that we're going to be looking at. We're also going to be looking at the next steps to integrate early warning systems, to create perhaps best practices, to reduce accidents, perhaps even to detect and limit a spillage when they do occur. I have to present to you a very talented, experienced group of people to look at this from very different backgrounds and very different responsibilities. I will give them to you in order of alphabetical order. Mike Lacey is Secretary General of the International Salvage Union. Over here. Jeff Love is Director of the Weather and Disaster Risk Reduction Services Department at the World Meteorological Organization, which we refer to as the WMO. Here. Gilles Longueve is Managing Director of JLMD. You will tell us what those initials stand for eventually. Stefan Mikalev is Deputy Director of the Subdivision for Pollution Response and Technical Cooperation Coordination. That's a mouthful, Stefan. Of the Marine Environment Division at the International Maritime Organization. And Willem de Ruyter is the Director of the European Maritime Safety Agency. So here we have with us 3 representatives of the intergovernmental organizations and 2 practitioners whose expertise is precisely in how to protect all of them, how to protect and save people and the oceans from maritime disasters. I'm going to start with you, Stefan, with the International Maritime Organization. I suppose the first question that all of us would want to know is exactly what does IMO do to prepare for oil and chemical incidents? What do you actually do?
Yeah, thank you very much. I suppose this is on. Yeah, thank you very much.
Can you hold the microphone up to you? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. But perhaps to answer this question, one has to understand what the IMO is, or the International Maritime.
Stefan, hold it really close to you.
This close?
That's better.
Okay, I'll start over again. It's early morning. So, yes, essentially, I think we need to understand what the International Maritime Organization is all about. The International Maritime Organization is a UN specialized agency which has been established 60 years ago. In fact, this year we've had our 60th anniversary. The purpose of IMO is to provide the machinery for cooperation among governments to develop rules and regulations of a technical nature for shipping which is engaged in international trade. And therefore, these standards and rules deal with all aspects of shipping, that is, the issues of safety, efficiency of navigation, and also the issues of prevention and control of marine pollution. In this respect, when we talk about the prevention or the control of marine pollution from shipping, we have, if you want, three pillars: the prevention, the preparedness, and response. I would say that most of our activities or our initiatives and efforts are concentrated on prevention. But there is also an element of preparedness and response. In fact, as far as 1968, the International Maritime Organization was calling for arrangements in countries to deal with oil, with significant spillages from oil, and also linked to that was the issue of regional cooperation. After that, in 1990, the member governments, after the Exxon Valdez, came together and adopted also an international convention on oil pollution preparedness, response, and cooperation. And in that respect, there we had a global framework which was established by the governments for mutual assistance and cooperation. Indeed, what do we do in a practical way for preparedness and response? The actual convention itself gives a task to the IMO. It gives a task in terms of what it should be doing. And there you find responsibilities to the organization for exchange of information, in terms of exchange of information on technologies, technical assistance, and also assistance to governments in the case of response. With regard to our activities in this area, I would say that a good proportion of our efforts go to enhancing the capabilities of countries and regions to prepare for an incident. And this is done through our other regional agreements, which maybe we can elaborate a bit further. But I think at this point in time, I've given a kind of framework within which IMO works within the elements of preparedness and response.
Let me ask you, Stefan, we've had a lot of incidents. What kinds of things have you learned from this incident in order to prevent them from happening at all in the first place? Do you do any, what actions can you take as a result of some of those incidents to prevent them? Are there norms, standards, rules writing? What differences have you made?
Yes. If you take the high-profile incidents, and I can mention a few, we go back to historically to the Torrey Canyon. We look at the Herald of Free Enterprise, the Estonia, the Erika, and the Prestige. You will see there that when these incidents have happened, lessons have been learned, and member governments have come to IMO and have addressed certain issues. For example, if you take the Torrey Canyon incident, after the Torrey Canyon incident in the late 60s, the issue of the real danger, rather, of the high traffic of tankers to the environment, the dangers to the environment from the traffic of tankers was highlighted. And the result of that, the international community, through the IMO, adopted the convention, the international convention dealing with the prevention of pollution of ships. As a result of that, that has been elaborated further to deal now with all aspects of preventing pollution from ships. It deals with oil pollution, it deals with chemical pollution, it deals with garbage, it deals with sewage. After that, if you take the Exxon Valdez, we had amendments to this particular rulemaking issue, and we developed, we made it mandatory, or the governments agreed to make it to make mandatory the double hull or an alternative arrangement. After that, after the Erika, we've also made other amendments for the phase out of single hull, and after the Prestige, we've accelerated this phase out. So to a certain extent, I think that with every incident, there has been a certain amount of lessons learned, and this has been reflected in the rulemaking.
Like in most accidents, we always seem to manage to look backwards, that is to try and prevent what we already know has happened, because the crisis itself and the incident precipitates an international willingness to manage the crisis we've just had. What about looking forwards? Are there any, or there's no appetite in the international community to look forwards at things that might be coming down, or the challenges of tomorrow, if you wish?
Well, in this respect, I think I think the IMO, through its member governments, have also looked forward. There have been a number, a plethora of measures which have looked at issues, looking into, if you want, into the crystal ball. Today, perhaps not very much related to what we're discussing at this point in time. The issue of the greenhouse gases is being addressed, I would say very, very extensively. The issue of piracy is also being addressed. So in this respect, I would say, yes, indeed, we do learn from experiences, but there's also a certain amount of proactivity on the side of member governments to bring to the IMO certain challenges which then are discussed and indeed measures adopted as appropriate.
Thank you, Stefan. We'll turn to